Welcome to my channel. Today an art journal tutorial, and we'll be featuring the technique of using a gesso resist. So I have my 9x12 Canson mixed media page and some of my brand new TCW stencils. This one's called Rainbow Montage, and I am putting just white gesso through this stencil with a makeup sponge. This is giving a little bit of texture, not too much. This is just regular white gesso, not even thick. And I'm putting it on raw mixed media paper. So at the very least, this is going to add some texture and movement to the page. I love the swirl of this rainbow montage. These stencils, since they are new, there's a link in the description box below to TCW, and there's a coupon code as well. So I just want the swirls on the background. And today, quite honestly, when I started, the only thing I wanted to use was my new stencils, and I just wanted to play. It's been a few days since I've been in the studio, and I had no plan for where this page was going to go. But when you're feeling like that, just start. Jump in and do it. Now this one is called Scattered Branches, and I wanted to get some black mark making in the background. I'm just putting this all over the place. And I'm doing this now before I put color down, because the color that I put on top will push this back somewhat. So right now it's very, very forward, but when you see me put color on, it's going to be less. So I grabbed my bright aquamarine blue, and blue green from Amsterdam, and I'm going to mix that with a makeup sponge right on the page. Now, because I have gesso on there and that's completely dried, I'm grabbing a baby wipe, and my plan is to take the baby wipe, and if I rub where the gesso is, the paint comes off, and you can see that that happens. You need to remove the paint fairly soon after you put it on. If it dries too much, you can take a little bit of rubbing alcohol and spray that on your paper towel, and it will help lift the paint. Now, the reason I'm blending the paint right on the page is I like the look of that, the randomness. I find I get a more interesting background. And I'm just picking colors that are close together on the color wheel. I know that those will not make mud. And if you're unsure, just take a little bit on the side and mix them and see. So I'm applying paint to little sections and then coming in with the baby wipe before it dries too much and wiping it back where the gessoed areas are. That gives a really subtle, soft stencil pattern. Definitely a technique that I'm going to use more because I like that softer look. If I was to take the paint or white paint right now or gesso right now and stencil on top, that would be very bright and very opaque. And this is just a different look. Not every pattern you put on there do you want to be so forward. And you can see with the stenciling with the scattered branches stencil, that got pushed back a bit when I put the paint on, especially the bright aqua because it's a fairly opaque paint. If you want to add color and you want more straight up blue or straight up aqua, let it dry and then come in and put it on top. Once the acrylic's dry, it doesn't blend anymore, and you can do that. So I love that look. And this looks very outdoorsy, very nature. We've got swirls like wind and sky and then branches. So I grabbed a collage paper and I grabbed this color because, well, right now it is September, and I noticed that the maples here in Victoria are starting to turn color, and I love that burgundy orange color. So that's what inspired this. So I grabbed a collage paper. I added a little bit of stenciling using the punch card slimline stencil. And I'm adding a little more interest with this Stamperia Words stamp. I love the size of this stamp. If you're looking for a letter stamp, I highly recommend this one. So I'm using this Jackolantern stencil. All the stencils are from TCW. This is not a new one. And I want to collage the pumpkin on here. So I'm tracing the stencil onto the collage paper. And I'm going to cut it out. Now, I'm going to admit this process I found really frustrating. I wasn't sure what I wanted, what look I was going to, so there was a lot of tweaking along the way. But even a bad day creating in the studio is a good day. Because the pumpkin was a little too big for my 9 by 12, I decided to cut out those middle areas, and I'm going to collage that pumpkin overlapping the parts. Now this was on very, very thin paper, just a step above tissue paper. But if I was doing this again, I would do it on mixed media paper, and then when I layered it up, it would have even more dimension. I wanted to add some more pumpkins, so I grabbed another collage paper. And it's great having these collage papers in your stash because you can grab them out and find the right color or use the collage paper as a base, as a jump up start. You can always add to it, as you saw me doing with that first one. I grabbed this one and this other one, and I'm going to cut out 2 pumpkins at the same time because I'm thinking maybe I'm going to have 3. When I got it all done, I really didn't like that one. It was a little too neonish for me, so I put that off to the side and decided to, let's just play with the composition a little bit, figure out where I want to go. And then I decided I wanted another jack-o'-lantern, but instead of tracing on the front, this time I'm just tracing on the back to get the basic shape. So one I drew on the top, like the first one, and then the other one I just drew on the back. And I'm experimenting. I want to do more collaging and I want to use my stencils as a base for that. So I'm figuring out the process here. Now the colors that I've chosen, although inspired by nature, I also know that they are opposite each other on the color wheel. The oranges and the burgundies are across from the blues and greens. So I know that they're going to give a lot of pop. So I'm playing with the idea of having 3 pumpkins, 2 little ones and 1 larger one. And here I'm layering these pieces of this larger pumpkin together. Alternatively, I could have made every piece a different collage paper. Not sure I want to put that stem on. So now I'm putting the stencil back on, and I decided to try shading through the stencil, getting those lines. I'm using the floating acrylic, my usual shading technique. I'm just doing it through the stencil. And you know what? I kind of like how I got it. I like the effect a little bit. And then I'm adding more shading there because I didn't like that space in between. And then I'm painting out this one, and I really didn't like that, so it was recycled. Now I want to do another one. I'm going to attempt something different. So I'm tracing it on the back because I like that better than tracing it on the front and getting those lines. Cutting it out. Here I'm just adding a little bit of color because it wasn't quite down to the end. And I'm just going to lightly mark where those lines are. Now I could have eyeballed this, but I want to show you that if you're not comfortable just eyeballing it, you can use your stencils to guide you. And then I'm just adding those lines. So this way I don't have the double space. I know where the shading's going. And I really like that last one. I left the other ones in because I wanted to show you, that sometimes even for people who art journal a lot and paint a lot, you don't always have the answers, and it's trial and error. And two, there are more ways to do it than one. So I'm really liking the shading on the little pumpkin, so I want to shade and bring out the different parts of this pumpkin. And this technique it's a shading technique that I learned when I did my folk art days. And it's called floating acrylic. I do have a video that teaches that. And if you search on my channel for shading, then I grabbed the punch card slimline stencil and gold paint, and I'm stenciling on this pumpkin. Now, admittedly, this would have been easier to do before I did the shading, but I didn't have the idea. But I absolutely love the shimmer this gives the pumpkin, the effect of it. So it was totally the right move. And I glued all this down with, you could use matte medium, fluid, or gel. If it's thicker papers, I tend to go with gel medium. Thinner papers, you can get by with the fluid medium, but they're both matte finish. And you saw me stencil the stem of the pumpkin with black paint. So I went to my new sentiment pack, Grateful, Thankful, Blessed, and I picked the saying, I'm not lucky, I'm thankful. And I printed it off on a couple sizes just to play with it. And that's the advantage with these digital sentiment packs. You can resize them. And I have a video that shows how to do that. Of course, some variations with different printers apply. Adding in a little bit of the scattered branch now that I know where the composition is. Now that little crazy bird, I had no plans to put him on, but he was sitting on my desk and I kind of moved him and he ended up on my project. And I thought, oh, I could totally use him. So I'm painting him yellow to go with the gold and the warm colors that I'm using for the focal image. I started with, it's not Naples yellow. Naples yellow is more the color I got by mixing yellow oxide with white. And then I'm grabbing another new stencil. This one is called Garden Tile, and I'm stenciling it on, and it looks like fallen leaves. It's just all these stencils are very organic in they feel. And I love that effect. It also introduces some of that yellow from the gold on the pumpkin and the yellow of the bird to the background. So everything works very cohesively. Now the bird is very flat, so we will be doing some shading on him. And I'm using brown, and then I come back with a little bit of black just to add, get some of those lines. And don't be afraid to play with the orientation of your sentiments, move them across the page, layer them one on top of the other, and even mix and match sentiments from the same pack or other packs. Cut out words and make your own sentiments. Now that I have everything cut down to size, I eliminated a lot of the white. I'm just placing it on there. So this ended up very much a fall inspired color scheme and page. And, the message is there. I'm a big one about gratitude and appreciating what we have and the little things that we have because they really are the big things. I'm so blessed to be able to spend time doing art and helping other people get creative. And I thank you guys, all of you, for watching my channel, for recommending, and, you know, as well as those people who have bought some of my sentiment packs. Art journaling and mixed media is good for me, and being able to share it with you is also good for me. So thank you. Just using the Posca pen and adding some sketchy lines around the sentiment, around some of the focal image. This, I think, would look lovely on a Thanksgiving fall canvas. Love the colors. Until next time, go get creative.